Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. My goodness, it's internet can mess with a lot of things. So sorry about that.
No, I have had already the week from hell with technology and internet. And it's been
Okay, so I'm
terrible.
not alone.
No. There's something in the air. There's been something with my phone, my computer, the internet, literally something every day this week that was kind of detrimental to my practice. I'm like, oh.
Yes. Yeah, I believe it because I had everything ready and I was like, okay, I got the time. Everything is ready. I put the laptop down and I was like, okay, I'm going to get ready. I come back. I have a black screen.
Oh, that's literally what happened to my computer yesterday. It went all black.
It's black. Scary.
Yes, it is.
So I said, okay, wait. My computer is not dead. Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. I'm looking right now. It looks like, wait, I have this much energy. Okay. Oh, thank goodness the charger's right there. I'll be right back.
Yes.
I'm glad you're talking about that because at least now we realize it's a thing.
Yeah, my husband had to go through, I don't know a ton about computers or anything, and he had to go through and get my computer on the most recent, I don't know what you call it, operating system and clear out a bunch of things. And oh my gosh, I had to wait for 30 minutes this morning just for my computer to upload the new operating system and stuff. And I'm like, not yes. My week. Not my week.
Because I plugged it in all night, but something must have happened. I think maybe the plug that I use is the wrong one. Why?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe one of the outlets is not working right. So probably when I plugged it in, it seemed like it should work, but then it didn't. And then so now I'm looking, I was like, wait, why do I have this much space of battery life when I charge it all night? Right. So I think maybe that's why it went black, because it didn't have enough juice. Oh my gosh. And my tech guy is a college kid that's gone to school. So he's not supposed to come until a different day. But wow. Technology sure now knows how to keep us, how do I put this? Focus.
Right? Yeah.
We've been taking some things for granted. So we're going and going and going. And then all of a sudden we're like, why isn't this working? We actually did take it for granted because honestly, I don't think to be great. I don't say the gratefulness for technology.
I even think if I'm driving around, if I didn't have my phone GPS, I don't know how I would get anywhere. I use my phone GPS literally weekly, at least once a week to go somewhere in my own town.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Well, you think that's bad. I was talking to my niece over the weekend and I told her, I think we need to start doing things manually. And she said, what do you mean by that? She's 12. And she said, what do you mean by that? And I said, we need to get a map.
Right.
And she said, what's that? And I said, it's a paper. You get it, and it has directions of where everywhere is. But you need to learn two things. Know how to read it and know how to read a compass. Or if you don't have a compass, she's like, what?
Yes, they're just they're obsolete now. It's
yes. And I said, well, if you don't, okay. Do you know where your north and south is? Well, the GPS will tell me. And I said, okay, I know you weren't there, but I remember a time when we didn't have GPS. Mm-hmm. So how about those times? She said, Auntie, why do you need to work that hard? It's fine. And I said, so what if you go somewhere and your phone is dead?
Right.
And you have to figure out how to get home.
Right.
I'll ask directions. What if there's nobody there? Well, Auntie, you're making this too complicated. And I'm like, I think maybe I'm asking for too much.
Yeah, it is so bonkers how much like, the younger generations don't even have a clue. And you're right, all taken for granted.
Yeah. So for that reason, honestly, this morning, before I started, I said, wow, I'm taking technology for granted. I just seem to think it should just be there.
Yep.
And it's always there. So just like how I think the sun comes up every day, technology is the same way. Oh, it's just going to be there.
Yeah, we might want to have some gratitude practices for it, huh?
Yes. Anyways, enough with the technology. Thank goodness it's working. We are very grateful. Thank you, universe. Thank you, all the angels that helped make it happen. Thank you. Okay, so today my guest is Ms. Carrie Leaf. She's a licensed marriage and family therapist and a mindset coach. I can't say enough about mindset coaching. Mindset coaching is huge because you can get all the therapy in the world, you can get all the coaching in the world, but if you're not fully present as how to maintain your mindset on presence, everything else pales. Nothing else matters because it's about your mindset. And if that's not renewed and focused and directed within the circumstances you're in or the situation you're going towards, it becomes more like the analogy I used for one of my clients was, you have a rock in front of you and you're trying to pour water onto it. And hoping whilst you pour the water onto that rock is going to germinate something fruitful. And yet not, and you're like, but I've gathered all the best waters and all the best information as to how to make things, how to cultivate something and make it grow. And it's not happening. And then you come along and you're like, I might help. Do you need some? Do you want to open this up? And that's where you come in. So it's very important to recognize the importance of creating mindset daily. And that's where you're going to explain to our audience why this is important and the work you do and how you jump into this beautiful life of assisting others or facilitating others to be mindful. So my guest here is Ms. Carrie Leaf. Like I said, she's a licensed marriage and family therapist and a mindset coach. She's here to share her information and her experiences and expertise with us. And those of you who are interested in learning more, please get a pen and paper because you're going to get some wealth of information that you can run with and grow and become the person that you want to be. And once again, my name is Sroda Aglago. I'm the host of Love, Forgive, Live podcast. Ms. Carrie, share what you've got with us.
Yes, thank you. I'm not exactly sure where to start, but everything you said is spot on. Mindset is just key and central to literally everything about our lives, and not only checking where your mindset is on a daily basis, maybe we're even checking hourly, but also even digging back further and seeing where we might have developed the belief systems that we have underlying on a subconscious level that influence our mindset or the way that we see the world. Because there's what we're conscious of and how we view things and what we hear ourselves telling ourselves. And then on a subconscious level, we have even deeper threaded mindsets that are dictating our actions and what we think and feel and do as well.
Yes. I agree. And it's powerful because when individuals come for sessions or you're even having a conversation with someone and you notice the absent-mindedness and you know what we do, we make notes. And like, I'll bring it up because usually when a person is explaining their process, we don't just interrupt. We allow them to go ahead and flow, because that's how we get information and are able to tap in and then say, okay, did you look at this? So when you're doing this and recognizing how mindset creates a level of, for lack of a better word, I'll probably use the level of consciousness. Mm-hmm. How do you manage to bring an individual to that level of consciousness when they're so deep into their stuff?
Yeah, it really starts with the very first day that a client's going to either walk through my office or log on virtually. The very first day is where it starts for me, being able to kind of gather all the pieces of the puzzle, trying to connect the dots. So number one thing for me is getting a very thorough assessment for everybody that I'm working with. I want to know literally everything about you, like from the day you were born, your parents, your siblings, your family, your relationships, your jobs, your patterns, your lifestyle, like mind, body, spirit, holistic approach. I want to know it all. And of course, in just one assessment, you can't get all of those things, but I'm going to hit as many in general as I can. And then from there, what brings somebody through the door or jumping online isn't necessarily the issue at hand, right? So yes. I'm going to meet the person, right? I'm going to meet the person where they're at. So we're going to start with their problem, yes. After we've done this thorough assessment, and I might give them some feedbacks of areas that are kind of like little red flags for me of like, we might want to check on this one, or we might want to attend to this one, boost this one up. But we're going to then start where they're at. What's troubling them? What's the problem? And when we have the problem, whatever the present day problem is, from there, we can identify, working together, bringing that subconscious, conscious, what is the negative belief, right? There might be one or there might be 10, but usually there's kind of like a core negative belief behind whatever problem that they might have going on, So for example, one of the first negative beliefs of my own that I worked on was I'm not good enough. Right. So, and that's a pretty big one for a lot of people for different reasons. Right. Yes. And my reason for working on that was like seeing some of my relationship patterns, particularly in dating, and seeing like, I keep ending up in the same situation or with the same type of person, right? So and I'm the common denominator here, obviously, as much as I want to blame the other person, right? So looking at that pattern, that problem that I have going on, and dwindling that down to the negative belief of I'm not good enough underneath of that. So once we find that negative belief, we still have work to do, but that's a pretty big step right there in identifying like, I feel that at my core. I feel that in my gut, like that hurts. It doesn't feel good, and then we can start working to identify how it developed and clear that out.
I hear that because when you said it, I didn't want to interject. And I remember when I had to break down my negative self-talk and the belief system that I was actually working on and operating with. And then for me, it was journaling. And I kept writing and writing. And I know people always laugh at me like, you're always writing something. And I said, I think everybody should be writing something because your mind can really go to places.
A lot of places.
Yes. So for me, writing helps me narrow things down because your brain can go faster than your hands can.
Yeah.
And I recognize that sometimes when I write, you see that I'm just frantically just writing. And it's like, you come and you look at the picture like, sheesh, that's a lot of words. How do you keep track of this? And I'm like, when I need to read it, I'll read it and I'll see what I need to get from me. So I go through the information. And I remember when I was younger, I remember one pattern of behavior was every time I would eat, I would clean the plate so well you would think I took a napkin or something and cleaned it. And I was like, okay, I'm like 240. Something is wrong with this picture. Why am I eating like this? Then I go, I don't know. And I kept, writing and asking, what don't you know? Why don't you know? Then I started creating a pattern. You know how we were all taught genograms. So I started writing genograms down, and I was like, what happened here? What happened with the grandma? What happened with great grandma? And what happened here? Then I recognized I had a fear of hunger, a huge fear of hunger. And in my younger days, when I was in my teens, even I think from 10, 11 up to 14, I had this fear with hunger because there wasn't enough food. And I would come, and I remember there were days that I would have like baguette with just sugar water because there wasn't any money to buy tea or hot chocolates, or back then it was Milo. And I couldn't, or the Ovaltine. There wasn't money to get that. So I would be like, well, I'm hungry. So I would just get the water and put some sugar in it and just sit there and then dip the baguettes in it. And I didn't know when the next one would come, or I would go to some lady that sells food, and I was like, hey, I'll just help you in your kitchen. And so when I'm done, you help me clean the leftovers, and or the bottom of the rice, and I'll scrape it off and then wipe the pot of the stew, and I'll be okay. And she's like, well, I can't pay you. I could do this for myself. And I was like, yeah, but I'll just help you out and I'll clean up. So that was the stuff I was doing. So then I was like, wait, so hunger was the problem. And the fact of the matter is, when I was hungry and I wasn't a space to get food, or a place to get food, or the money to get it, my stomach will hurt. And it'll hurt so bad that I would start having anxiety and fear. And there were the things so I was like, what was I doing to make that happen? Like, what was I doing? I was like, well, I'm not creating that, but it made my stomach hurt. Then I realized the things I used to do was I would start chewing my lips because I was so hungry. My mouth would want something to chew to trigger digestion because the pain is so bad. So I'll do this. And I'll be chewing and mindlessly not focusing on it. Now I remember that when I first got married, my spouse used to complain all the time. Why do you chew your lips? Stop chewing your lips. What's wrong with you? Stop chewing your lips. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize I was doing that. Not knowing every time I was hungry, I would do that. When I was dehydrated, I would do that. So I wrote all that down. I was like, well, I have enough money to buy food now. My pantry is always full. My refrigerator is always full. I don't have any shortage. So why am I still doing this? Then I realized my body remembers the times that I didn't have food. So even though it had food, my mindset was still the shortage or the lack of food. So I just lived in there. So when I saw food, I'll clean it very well, clean the plates and make sure there's nothing on it. And then I would go. Meanwhile, it was making my body get more and more bloated. I was just gaining more and more weight. Then I realized, oh my gosh, I need to stop this. What is wrong with this? I thought I turned it off, but I thought I needed to stop this. What's going on? And that's what mindset does, because it brings you back to, what are you doing? Do you realize what you're doing?
Yes, because we're driven so much more on that subconscious, and the body keeps the score, right? Like you said, your
Yes.
body remembers, and our body remembers our emotions, our fears. It holds them in there unless we work hard to clear them out. And that's why integrating mind, body, and spirit, all of them, is crucial, because if you can attend to the mindset, but if the body recalls, you're going to still struggle. Or the other way around, you attend to the body, but the mindset is still in a feedback loop. We're still going to struggle. We've got to bring them all in. And that subconscious drive, think of it like, an iceberg. Our conscious drive is that little, let's say 10% on top of the water, but we're driven by that, 90% underneath, right? So
and
it's powerful.
It's very powerful. And I'm like excited about what you do, because most of our therapeutic practices is focused on symptoms, treatment, let's get it, and the goals. Right? Once in a while we will bring mindset in, but it's not so focused.
No. Ooh.
I don't know what that was, but it made a lot of noise.
Right.
Okay. So anyways, that was so strange. But anyways, one thing. How did you start connecting that with your practice? Because, and recognizing that, well, therapeutic, but then we still need to bring spirit. We still need to bring mindset. When did this aha moment come for you?
Yeah, it was along the way, honestly. It was the journey. Like you said, in our training, it's not generally like that. But I feel, connecting the mind, body, and spirit, they're not taking a holistic approach in our training. No one's training, and that's unfortunate. And but I did, as an LMFT, I did get a fantastic training with family systems theory, and that at least started out a strong foundation for me of seeing how everything is interconnected, so that was a good start. And then over the years, I've worked in so many different settings, community mental health, residential treatment, hospitals, military base, university settings, private practice, just like tons of different settings across the board. And I just kept seeing the same things. It didn't matter who, where, when, what age, whatever problem they were coming to me for. What got results was when I would take a holistic approach and look at every angle and integrate. That's what got results, So seeing throughout my journey and all the, fields and places that I've worked, I saw what worked and what didn't. And this is, I've been doing this for nearly 2 decades. This is a long journey. But I have really learned that you've got to bring all pieces in. And then the thing that really probably drilled it in even further for me was getting trained in and practicing in EMDR therapy. And that's where, understanding the negative belief systems really, got real for me, basically. I'm like, it just all kind of connected. So between that journey of experiences and my training and practice with EMDR, I just, what I saw with as far as results and progress with my clients, I'm like, yep, this is what works. This is what works.
That's amazing. And it's powerful. It's powerful that we create this mind, body, spirit connection, because I didn't take the EMDR training. But we, upon reading the research and what works, I started doing practices of making people use their body. Use their body because, with our line of work, we don't usually, if you're not licensed as or trained as an EMDR practitioner, you can't say that. So what I did was I usually call it EMDR activity. So yeah, and I just and I remember with my teens, them using their body was the best thing for that, because it was amazing to have them recognize where the pain, the anxiety was coming from. Because a lot of time they're like, I just don't feel right. And I was like, what part of the body is feeling this the most? I don't know. I just don't feel right. And then the moment you allow them to focus and zero in on the part of the body that's hurting, it's amazing. I had a teen, he needed to be physical, but not just physical in like punching a bag or anything like that. He needed to run. And I'm like, how am I going to keep up with you? And he said, well, Miss Rhoda, you can get in your car and follow me. And I was like, what? And he said, well, you said therapy doesn't have to be cookie cutter. And I was like, oh, he's got me there. Well, I love my teens because they are able to just call on the things that you think you're pigeonholed yourself. And then they're like, who says you can't do this? Just that you're following me, you're alone in the car following me and going to where I'm going to run to. And when I stop, you stop and we can talk. And I was like, okay. So what I would do is I'll put my hazard lights on and then drive slowly whilst he's running. And then I see him stop and I said, okay, I pick up speed and I get there. And I was like, okay, talk to me. What just happened? And he goes through it and tells me what he's thinking. And that helps me create a unique treatment plan for him.
Yes.
And that worked for him, but not every other team. That I remember one, for lack of a better word, I'm lazy when it comes to places like or things like basketball. I never learned it. And then I had a child go, Miss Rhoda? And I was like, yeah. You're Black. And I was like, yes. Why don't you know how to play basketball? And I was like, well, you know what? I will tell you one thing. Stereotypes don't work. And he's like, I'm confused. You don't. And I was like, I never learned it. It was never something that was introduced to me. So I don't know. And for him, it was basketball. And this is a child with highly volatile emotional outbursts because he had defiance disorder. And so I always try to work so we don't have that emotional outburst and we can actually get to what we came here for. And his was basketball. So I had to learn to play with him for him to teach me. And every time he would stop and you say this, and I was like, oh, wow, that's a great insight. Let's explore this. And you stop for a while. He said, okay, let's play again. And that worked with that individual because it's what they needed. And I wish, honestly, that when we are training in school, they would make this. I mean, honestly, if I had my way, and those who are in school right now probably say, you want us to stay here for another year? But literally, you need a year on this topic, on mindset and all the different aspects that is available to create this. And I had another family because I'm a mental, as a marriage and family therapist, I would go to a family. And one time, because I love cooking, and I was like, do you guys want to try cook therapy? And they were like, what? And I said, cook therapy. They're like, is that even a thing? And I was like, it is now. And I said,
it is now.
And I said, what I've been using with you is structural therapy. Okay? So with structural therapy, with families, I needed to read it. It's almost anything goes within a parameter of safety and with the ethical laws and what HIPAA would allow, we can create what fits your family. And through structural therapy and then the cook therapy, they were shocked how much they revealed to each other and how much they were like, each other's personality was similar to their parents. And meanwhile, the kids were feeling, I'm nothing like any of my parents. They're just so, and I'm like, are you thinking you guys are complete anomalies? Yeah, we just don't fit together. I'm like, okay. And once they were doing that and then understanding how much they were like each other. And I mean, that got me crying, watching a daughter who is going through severe self-harm and watching their father speak about his bout with deep depression and days that he didn't want to come home. He just wanted to go to a place and get lost. And the child is like, I thought Dad didn't care. Dad didn't even know how I feel. But to find out that Dad is going through the same thing I'm going through. And I was like, oh my gosh. And because when, how in structural therapy, sometimes if the family are sitting, to change the dynamic, you must disrupt the system that they've been working with. And I would be like, no, you know what? This time I don't want you sitting with Mom. I need you to sit here beside Dad. And I want you to sit here. They were like, but I always sit with Mom. Well, not today. Well, why? It's just sitting. I promise you're not going to die. And then they look at me like, ugh. But now, after recognizing that, she recognizing that her father is feeling the same thing she feels and knows it, she voluntarily stood up to go and sit beside her dad. And when she sat there, she took his hand. Before, she wouldn't even let him hug her. She just felt, oh, he doesn't care. He knows nothing about what I'm going through. He's just over there. He just goes to work and come and sit down and eat and just sit there and watch TV, not knowing her father was suffering. And so for me, I wish when we are training, they will make us, include that in the curriculum. All these different aspects, especially with the EMDR. And include spirit, because spirit has a lot to do with it. And you know what I've also heard? There's a lot of people who actually are looking for your type of service. Where is mind and body, spirit, the complete holistic approach? Majority of the people are looking for this, but when they go out seeking therapists or practitioners, they find that there's a shortage of them. No, actually, majority of them don't want to do that. Why is that?
Right. And I suppose that's the separation in the training, right? Going against, feeling like you're going against the grain, or you would stand out, or I don't know, fears, maybe getting in trouble or whatnot. But when you dig in, there's just, exactly what you're talking about. There is no one size fits all, you're saying, for the one kid, it's basketball. For someone else, it might be walking. For someone, the cooking, that's why I offer walk therapy, to help people get outside and move their body while they talk. And there's just so many different things that work with different people. But I do think probably our training and then our society in general says they're separate. They're separate things. Yes. Our providers are trained that they're separate. Our clients are trained that they're separate. And so it's strange, but when you dig in and what works, you just cannot separate them.
Yeah, we can't. We really can't. And when do you find that the resistance, especially when a client who's been so indoctrinated about the separation, and then they come to you, how do you even bridge that individual to understanding that part?
At their pace, right? And I think that being in private practice and having my own bio and saying this is me and this is what I'm about, I'm naturally going to attract more people that are on board with my holistic approach. So that is helpful. But you get the people that haven't had experience in therapy or coaching or things along those lines, and they don't really know what they're walking into necessarily. And some may be resistant, and when they're coming in to work on this one issue and I say, let's talk about your sleep and your exercise and what you're eating, you can kind of see the face glaze over, the eyes glaze over, and the trying not to roll their eyes, or you get the subject change or whatever, and that's okay. That's okay. We can't make anybody do anything.
No,
but I can throw out suggestions, right? And I can psychoeducate. I can say this is why this is helpful, and these things interconnect. I can, I probably turn to psychoeducation. But if they're just shutting it down, then we start at a different angle. And a lot of times they come around. We can circle back to it. Not every time, but a lot of times we do. And sometimes what I think, somebody may need, or approach I start to take, I realize, just like they always do, they know better than me what they need. And sometimes they don't need to work on the area that I was going to just yet or at all. They do better off going where they knew they needed to go. Right. So it's really that having that flexible attitude and meeting them where they're at. But I do think psychoeducation is a big piece of it too. Let me tell you why I'm suggesting this. Let me tell you why I'm asking this, and you can do what you want with it, and we'll come back to it later.
I love that, because with psychoeducation, it almost allows them to process it in their mind, what the information they've received, and not as just telling them, because if you're telling them, do this, we all know they won't do it. Nobody wants to be told what to do. So that's a no-no. And so with psychoeducation, they're definitely able to hear something that resonates with their processing. And they might stop and be like, I wonder if that's okay, maybe I should try it. And it's beautiful, because when they come around and recognize there is some truth in what you've been saying, what are some of the things that surprises you when they come up to you about saying the truth of what you've been saying all along?
Yeah, one of the quick turnarounds that I see people when they start to say in their minds, okay, I'll try it, and they give it a shot outside of sessions and they come back. It's almost always with what they're eating and adding in some exercise that I'll get people saying, yep, I tried those things you said, and at first I hated them, but I feel really good now. And then you start hearing the progress they're making in other areas, and it's just sort of clicks for them of man, I feel better physically, and strangely my anxiety is down, and I'm in a better mood, and so those are the ones that I when they decide to give the eating better, eating healthier, whole foods, getting rid of the fast foods, and adding in some exercise, some movement, they come back a few weeks later being like, you know what, I just feel better. Not always do they connect the dots, but a lot of times they do.
I love it. It's funny. Yeah. Because that's the main thing. Because years ago, I think that was probably 10 years ago, when I went through my bout with depression without even knowing that I was, I recall not having, I just realized I was sleeping throughout the day. And then get up and take a shower, wash my face, put makeup on, and then go and pick up my child from the bus stop. It was crazy. And one day I remember, I guess there was something I must have heard about omega-3 help balance women's hormones. And I was like, I heard that somewhere. I don't even know where I heard it. Maybe it's my hormone that's out of balance. That's why I'm sleeping like this. So I went to the pharmacy, picked up the omega-3, and then the person's like, oh, how many doses did the doctor say? And I was like, no, I've just been feeling, sluggish and sleeping all the time and not feeling good. And he's like, well, have you considered your vitamin D? I was like, vitamin D.
Yes.
And he's like, what are you doing? I was like, wow, okay, maybe I'll take vitamin D. So he showed me and he's like, are you taking any multivitamin? I was like, well, no. He said, you need one. And then he just kept adding stuff. And he said, you need this, you need that. I'm like, okay. So I come home with all these vitamins, but it's the placebo effect. Yeah. I was feeling like, oh yeah. So now I'm going to get, my energy is going to be good. Everything is going to be good. So I took it the next day. I was like, yeah. My mind had tricked itself to believe that, yeah, this is working. A week later, then I was like, oh yeah, I heard if you work out, your mood gets better. So I started getting up, going to the boot camp and doing things, walking. I'm sweating. It hurts, but I'm sweating. And I'm doing all that stuff. Then I recognize something. I feel really good. And my family is like, Mom, you okay? You seem different. I was like, really? Oh, I just feel so good. You want to go out and play catch? Let's go and do this. My child said, you don't want me to just play a game or watch a cartoon? I'm like, no, let's go do something. And that became a thing for me. Mm-hmm. No matter how tired I am, I'll get up at 5 o'clock and go and get that walk done. Because I know if I don't do it, the rest of the day I'm toast.
Yes. It's and everyone that might look a little bit different, right? And like I can't say that I get that in every day, but I try, and I've swung, on that pendulum from doing nothing to doing too much with exercise and being too strict on myself, right?
Yes.
Right. And I found that flexibility where I try to get in more often than not. But if I don't, that happens. There's days and weeks like that too. And it's okay. That flexibility is important as well. But absolutely, when I look back at the times in my life where I have coped the best or maybe been in the better moods for the longest amount of time, exercise was more regularly in there for sure.
Yeah.
But like I've said, I've done the extremes where like I only ate the chicken and veggies and I ran or I walked or I lifted every single day of the week, 7 days a week. And if I didn't, like I was really upset with myself. And then, so then I created a mental health problem with that. So I might have been, I was pretty darn fit, but my mental health was not fit, and that's why you want to balance all of them for sure.
Yes.
They all matter.
Yes. I remember. Yeah. That's, and then at one time when I was going through a breakup, I remembered what happened before and I was like, get busy. Literally, I said that in my head, get busy. And I'll kid you not, I would go in the morning for a dance class, like a Zumba class. And then in the evening, I'll do kickboxing.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
The same day. And then I remember the kickboxing instructor saw me one day and she said, okay, imagine you've got somebody's face in your hands. And I'm not advocating, please don't come for me. I'm not advocating violence. But what I'm saying is this, when you're going through the stuff and you're left with the thought, the negative self-talk that's coming up, you hold, she said, imagine you're holding the person's face. Mm-hmm. She said, you're not going to do this physically. And I was like, well, of course, we're not going to do that. So she said, now hold that person's face and you imagine you're punching. And she said, I don't care if it's a pillow you're holding. And so I'm doing that and I'm doing that. And then all of a sudden she comes to me, she said, I don't care what's going on. I don't care where I am. If I'm going somewhere and I'm going to be in a fight, I want her. And I was like, what? She said, oh no, the look on your face and you're punching. She said, whoever that person is that got on your last nerve, they better look out because the punches you're throwing, and she said, and you are going for it. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize. And she said, no, everything is on your face. You just bring the face. And that's the thing, because you're getting it out.
Yes.
You're releasing and creating a pattern. Thank goodness I stopped that because I started recognizing how far I was holding in. And I remember going to my therapist and saying like, I want to scream. She said, yeah, go ahead and scream. I'll give you the pillow. Go ahead and scream. And she said, what are you doing? I was like, I've been going for a workout twice a day. And she's like, whoa, you need to slow down before you break down. And,
right.
And
balance, right?
The balance, the nutrition. And she's like, yeah, how much are you eating? And I was like, well, maybe I'll eat like once a day. And she's like, whoa, okay, that's not helpful for your body or your brain.
Right.
And that's what I think when we recognize how separate we've been dealing with pain and thinking, oh, if we just talk about it, or if we just kick and punch a ball or do something and it's over. No, it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing, because we are all that. We are all that.
Yes. And I think there's something to that, everything in moderation quote. I notice with myself, with my clients, anytime that somebody is on the extreme side of something, we're usually going to have an issue, like since we're talking about exercise, if we have a client that, isn't exercising at all, nothing, no physical activity whatsoever, we're going to have mental health symptoms. And then if we have the client, like you just described, that's working out twice a week, 7 days a week, we're going to have breakdowns on that side too, right? Yes. It's there's that happy medium is generally a good rule of thumb, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I think with spirits, one of the other things, when I don't do my regular morning prayers and then I don't put in my meditation, and whether it's 5 minutes or 20 minutes, typically I do 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes at night.
Nice.
But when I don't do any at all, not even 10 minutes or 5 minutes, oh my goodness. Mm-hmm. I realize I feel exhausted.
Yes. And you're right. Like it's, we every day is different and we go through different phases in life. And so maybe I want to do 20 minutes a day, but I can't. So if I get 5 minutes in, it makes a difference. It matters, right? So that's why I try to tell people with self-care and coping routines, not every day are we going to have that full free hour that's like me time and self-care time.
Yes.
But we can almost always find 5 minutes. So if you can get that 5 minutes, that 10 minutes, make it happen. And that is better than consistently not doing anything because you don't have that full hour.
Yes.
And I wanted to check with you because I do have a 2:30 client and I wasn't sure if I told you that, but
no, that's okay. It's a good thing because I have somebody at 2, so 2 my time, but yeah, okay. So it makes sense. And yeah, I would definitely, but my last question and then we'll wrap up is based on what you know now and how much you've grown and learned, what are some of the things or any advice or wisdom or knowledge that you pass to your younger self if you had a chance?
Ooh, that's a good question. There's so many things. Mm-hmm. But I would say there's a few things that I would say right off the bat. Mm-hmm. Grace and kindness. Like I give myself more grace, be more kind to myself when I wasn't the best version of myself, or I made a mistake or didn't make the, quote, right decision. Mm-hmm. Giving myself grace and kindness. Mm-hmm. I would say to my younger self, dig in a little bit more, get into therapy earlier than you did, get into therapy, get a coach, get in sooner than you did, figure yourself out. Yes. And then I think that the last 2 things I would say is like, I wish I would have known about more of the holistic approach earlier on and done some of the things like functional medicine and the self-care and get, just explored those areas a little earlier on. And then the final piece I think I would say would be, what was the final piece? I think I just lost it thinking out loud here. Yes. If you want to make a change, and this is probably going to be a little bit more towards my perfectionist personalities, but if you want to make a change, if you have a goal, if you want to go somewhere, behavioral change can be hard. And oftentimes, we get overwhelmed. I'll never get there. That's so far away, these kind of things. whatever you want to do, wherever you want to go, just start with the tiny little baby steps. Take that little step and know that every tiny little step is a big win. You know, if we're talking exercise again, you know, and you do no exercise and you want to get to 5 days a week, let's celebrate if you even did 10 minutes that week, you know, and then next week, if you made it to 20 minutes, and then the third week, if you make it to 30 minutes, those are big wins. And as opposed to being stuck and overwhelmed and never starting that exercise, in 6 weeks, if you never start, you're exactly where you were, right? But in 6 weeks, if you add on 10 minutes every week, boom, you're doing good. That's not that far away, right? So take all those baby steps. They matter.
Thank you. I appreciate this. How can we get in touch with you? If anybody wants to get in touch with you, how can we reach you?
Yeah. So my website, carrieleaf.com, is going to be the most up to date with all the things there. There's a link to my book that's on Amazon, Therapize Yourself. That came out in October. And then Instagram at Carrie Leaf Coaching. That's probably the social media outlet that I keep up the most, or try to anyway. So those two areas, those would be it.
Great. Okay, perfect. Please send me more information if you can. I will put this, definitely make sure that our guests will have this information. If they send me emails, whatever, we can definitely get in contact with them. Thank you for joining us. And I know you have another appointment to get to. Please consider coming back. As soon as your book gets released, come back.
Oh, I would love to. The book's actually already been released. It was released in October.
Not coming up.
Yes, last October. But you are an absolute joy to talk to, and I would love to come back anytime. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and have an amazing week, okay?
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, thank you all for staying with our guests. It's incredible how much spirit plays a lot in our lives. We can't avoid it because it is part of our lives. And when it comes to our mental health, it is huge. We cannot. And that's how we can grow into the best version of ourselves. And there's nothing better than coming to a place of understanding with what we need. Thank you again for joining me. My name is Sroda Aglago. Thanks for joining us on Love, Forgive, Live podcast. Those who want to email me or ask to come on a podcast as a guest, you have something you want to share with our audience, we will definitely love to have you on. And our email is LUV, the number 4, give, GIVE, at gmail.com. Once again, LUV, the number 4, at gmail.com. Contact me, and those who want to have the information about Carrie Leaf's website, what she does, and her book and every information, contact me. I'll definitely be able to give you the information that you can get in contact with her and learn more, and then probably have her become a your mindset coach. That's not a problem with that. We'll definitely be able to help you, get you the information, and you can get in touch with her. Thank you again for joining us. Have an amazing week. Take care. Love you all. Bye. Thank you.